The Miami Heat win their second straight NBA title behind the stellar play of LeBron James. For Asia Today, I'm Michael Arnold. Joining me from Miami is NBA reporter Chris Herring. Miami was almost out of it in Game 6, but managed to pull it out. What was the difference between these two teams in this series?
One of them has an absolute superstar, and I really think that probably is as simple as that. When Miami got in trouble, they were able to turn to LeBron James to defend. When they needed baskets, they were able to turn to him to create one. And seemingly he's kind of if there's a player in the NBA with the Midas touch, I think he's clearly that guy who can defend almost any player in the league because of his attributes and his size, and can score in a variety of ways. I mean, the guy basically sealed this game tonight with a 19 jump shot. And when he played the same team back in 2008 for the NBA Finals, that was something that he really couldn't do. He wasn't a very good jump shooter. He's just evolved in every sense of his game over the last 5 or 6 years.
Somehow it kind of seemed as if they were always coasting. You know, they would wait till their backs were against the wall until they would finally start playing hard and pull things out. Is that a fair perception of this team?
I think it was. I mean, and the irony with that is that I don't think anyone will remember that in the grand scheme of things. But, I mean, this was a team that kind of played with fire. They didn't even make it to this round in an easy way, where the Spurs swept their series 4-0 coming into the finals, in the Western Conference Finals. Miami went to 7 games with Indiana. They had not won back-to-back games in almost a month coming into tonight. And, but it was a team that was down 3-2 in this series and had to win the last 2 to be able to clinch a title, and they did that. So there probably is some fairness to the idea that they played hardest when their back was against the wall. When they're in the midst of that 27-game winning streak, a lot of times they would be down by quite a bit. When they decided to play their absolute hardest, it was really hard for any other team to even be on the same level.
Let's talk a bit about LeBron James. Here's a guy, a couple years ago when he said he was taking his talents to South Beach, talked about winning several NBA championships, and people scoffed. They said, look, win your first one and then we can talk. Well, he's won 2 now. He's been NBA MVP for 4 out of the last 5 years. This could be blasphemy, but is he in the conversation now as the greatest player of all time?
I think he's finding a way to join that conversation. I think now with the 2 titles, it becomes a real thing. This was a series in which he really didn't have a ton of support at all times. If you want to look at tonight, for example, Dwayne Wade did step up. I think he scored 23 points, but we talk about a big 3 that he signed on with. He came here with Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade was already here. Chris Bosh did not score in this game. Whether it was injuries that he was playing through, Wade was hurt for a lot of series, but LeBron James took this series on kind of by himself. I think he averaged almost 30 points per win that they had in the series, but when they lost, he was only at about 20, and so he had a big impact when he was able to score. He very well could be in that conversation more seriously with Michael Jordan, with the Magic Johnsons. Winning a second title certainly gives that more credibility, and there's nothing he hasn't done in the last 2 years that would hold him out of that conversation. So I think it is becoming a more realistic thing, and you realize that he's 28. He's probably got at least another good 7 or 8 years in the league. He's never had a serious injury, so you would think that he's got a serious chance to join that conversation in the next year or so, especially if they can find a way to win a 3rd straight title next season.
Well, one of the interesting things about this series is that, kind of presented teams with 2 different models of building a winner. You had the Heat, which, brought in these high-priced free agents, brought in LeBron, brought in Chris Bosh to play with Dwayne Wade, versus San Antonio, which had these homegrown stars, had Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, who they recruited overseas, guys who were totally unknown and who've been on the same team for, 10 years now. Is the Heat's victory, is this a vindication of the big 3 high-priced free agent model, or is this, is it just that LeBron could win with any other 4 guys that you surround him with?
It might be a bit of both. I mean, the thing to remember, I guess last season would have been a similar sort of scenario where you had LeBron and the Heat beat Oklahoma City, which, similar to San Antonio, was built. That team was built with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, three guys that had all been drafted onto that team. And with this team, obviously built around Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. I think, truth be told, anybody outside those two teams would be happy with that. Either one of those models. They're so rare. I mean, I think Miami would have been thrilled to have been able to draft three players of that magnitude, but it's pretty rare to really hit the lottery and get players of that caliber in consecutive years or in a short time frame. So the next best way, if you can't draft them, then if you could find a way to sign them or convince them to play for your team like Miami did. I've talked to several people throughout the league that suggested Miami's model was not perfect, that LeBron and Dwayne Wade kind of are redundant in some of their skill sets and what they do, and maybe they're not the absolute best fit in terms of how they play together as teammates, but they're just so talented that those redundancies don't hurt them enough for other teams to be able to beat them 4 times in a 7-game series. So I think you would find almost any team would be thrilled to have either model, either setting, whether they're homegrown guys or whether you go out and get them. But I think it's fair to say that the other 28 teams in this league were very envious of the fact that these two were able to play for the finals and to have the sort of longevity with Miami being in the last 3 finals and the Spurs over the last 15 years being a real model franchise, being in their 5th championship round in 15 years, speaks a lot to just how consistent these teams have become.
Well, we could very well be back here again next year talking about a three-peat. Chris, I know it's late there. It's after 2 a.m. I'm sure there's a lot more fun things for you to do than to be talking to us at this hour. So I suggest you take your partying talents down to South Beach and join the celebration. Thanks for joining us here. For more NBA news, check out WSJ.com. For Asia Today, I'm Michael Arnold.